is with the Scottish UKIP leader, David Coburn.
David Coburn, why should people vote for UKIP?
Well, we want to keep taxes the same as the rest of the UK. We don't want them any higher for having the privilege of living in Scotland. I think that's a very good reason. We don't want the Scottish economy to be harmed by the fact that we get higher taxes. If we have higher taxes, people just won't come here. Not a good idea.
Now, we're going to come to some of the issues in this manifesto, which was launched last Thursday. But before we do that, I mean, I was watching again your speech from last Thursday. Let me begin by asking you, when you put things into the public domain, do you research them or do you make them up?
A little bit of both, Bernard. I try to be interesting and fun so that people actually listen. Well, so that's usually better than not.
Well, let's try and go through one or two, because you've said several times in this election campaign, when it comes to saving money, you've attacked what you call fat cat salaries in local government. You said last Thursday, UKIP wants to cut outrageous town hall fat cat salaries and other extravagances. I hear that some are on 150,000 in Glasgow City Council, 5 of them or so. Did you just make that up?
No, that's where we found that, and it looks like it's a good piece of information. Have you found otherwise?
Where's your source?
Oh, local government papers, looking through the usual sort of documents.
Which local government papers?
Oh, I can't tell you that. I can't remember that, but I don't even think I know. But we did look that up.
But you didn't make it up?
No, certainly not.
So when Glasgow City Council gave me a statement saying that only one officer earns over £150,000, they were making it up?
Well, as far as I know, that was the case. That's the figures we were given. And as far as I'm concerned, 150,000 for one's too much, far less for anyone.
Do you accept, though, that when Glasgow City Council say they have one officer earning 150,000, that is accurate?
No, I'd like to have a look at it and check for myself. Thanks, all right.
OK, when you said of the position of the other parties and their proposal for 1p on income tax, you said, and I quote, "This penny they are going to put in taxes will raise somewhere in the region of £800 million. Did you make that up?
No, I think it's somewhere between 500 and 800,000 pounds. It depends how you look at it. But 500,000 is probably more accurate. It's half of.
So it's somewhere between 800 million and 500,000.
500 million. Sorry, I mean, we're talking about £1 billion they're going to be spending on land grabs and such like.
Why did you say 800 million? Where's your source for that?
Well, we've researched it. I don't remember every source we got it from, Bernard. That's nitpicking, I'd say.
Let me put it to you. You made it up.
No, we didn't make it up.
Give me the source.
I don't have that source here and now, but I'm sure I can look it up and I'll send it through to you by email.
There isn't a source, is there?
There is a source.
But you can't tell me the source.
I can't remember what it was, Bernard. But we have a lot of sources we've been looking at.
I've looked at several sources, including the Scottish Parliament Information Centre, SPICE, which is widely regarded. I've looked at sources also from accountants, and the yield is not £800 million. It's nothing like £800 million. It's £475 million.
I did say £500 million, didn't I?
Yeah, but it's not £500 million either.
Well, it's a lot of money, Bernard.
But where did you get the figure £800 million from?
Well, that was a figure we looked up, and that's the figure we came out with.
You made it up, didn't you?
No, we didn't make it up, Bernard.
OK, you said last Thursday as well. And
you have your figures, I have my figures.
Yeah, my figures are robust, that's the difference.
Are they? Well, yes, I don't know what you were going to ask me, Bernard.
You said last Thursday 17,000 higher rate taxpayers in Scotland to contribute about 14% of the tax take. Did you make that up?
No, that was the figures we thought were right, and that's the figures we're given.
Where's the source?
Bernard, if I knew that source, I would tell you right now, but I didn't know you were going to ask me that question. Otherwise, I would have had it. I'm sure we can Google it and look it up afterwards.
Well, I mean, 15% of Scottish taxpayers are higher rate taxpayers. The figure is over 370,000. Not 17,000.
You have your figures, I've got my figures. We obviously must agree to differ.
Mr. Coburn, these 3 points, whether it is the yield on tax, whether it's the number of people paying higher rate tax, whether it's the number of officials at Glasgow City Councils, they've been made up. You cannot credibly source these to any credible source, can you?
Well, I can't tell you right now because I don't have that information to hand. But, of course, you have the advantage of being able to do that before. I don't know the answer.
I'll tell you what you do. I'll tell you what to do tomorrow.
Yes.
You can publish your source on each of these 3 points?
We'll see what we can do, Bernard.
You can publish them because you said you've sourced them, you haven't made them up.
No, we'll take them up.
Okay, well, let's go on to some of the specific policies in this manifesto. You say, for example, that we want to get rid of these PFI contracts. We want to buy out those that we can.
We wouldn't have had them in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Spending above our ability to pay is not a good idea. We've got a 15 billion hole in the Scottish economy. That is not a good thing to have.
What research did you undertake in your manifesto before you could conclude that some of them could be bought back?
Well, we've done a lot of research in the party. I can't specifically tell you the exact source of that, not here and now, but I can assure you that it was researched, and that is the figure that we
How many
believe.
PFI contracts are there in Scotland?
At the moment, not entirely sure.
How many of them have clauses which would allow a buyback?
Well, that we want to look into. This is what we've been saying. We should, and we didn't say exactly what we're saying. We are going to look into that, and that's important. We look into those things.
Why do you put things in your manifesto, with all due respect,
this is not
and you
important.
haven't even researched
You're not asking
them?
the question, which is important, that these PFI, I'm sure you wouldn't disagree, the PFI contracts are costing an absolute fortune, and we're spending money that we can't afford. And it'd be a better idea if we can negotiate. What we've said is we can negotiate these and get out of them as best we can. We can't say we can, but they should try to negotiate their way out of them.
But you can only negotiate out if there are clauses in the contract which allow
Exactly,
that.
which is exactly what we're going to look into. And
PF
also you can negotiate.
How many
a deal.
PFI contracts have you seen?
You can listen. You can work a deal with anything. I'm a businessman. I work deals and things all the time. So I would
My
imagine.
question was, how many PFI contracts have you seen?
Well, I haven't spent a lot of my time looking through PFI contracts.
Have you seen any?
Well, I haven't seen any. No, I've not sat down and looked through them. I don't think many people do, Bernard.
Well,
If you'd asked me, if you told me before you wanted me to do
actually,
it, I'd have looked through
if you're drawing up a manifesto
know.
with specific commitments, it might be actually quite sound to do a little
Our
research.
researchers have done that. Of course they have. But, I am not looking through every PFI contract in Scotland. Believe you me,
Okay,
I have. What we're talking about is the principle. Now, you're nitpicking about a lot of detail. We are talking about general ideas.
No,
of what we're talking about.
I'm suggesting you're making things up.
No, you know fine well, and as well as I do, and everybody else in the country knows, that these PFI contracts are costing a fortune, and it's spending above our means, and no one thinks it's a good idea. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Another pledge in this manifesto, and I quote, you would reduce the average class size in primaries 1, 2 and 3 to 20 with a cap of 25 on class sizes. What have you costed this pledge at?
Well, we have costed it. I can't tell the actual figure right now, but the most important thing...
Mr. Coburn, with respect,
We are nitpicking here.
Can you tell me anything?
Yes, I can tell
costed?
you. That's what we want, and the money for that will be easily raised by cancelling nonsense like the Named Person Act, which is I believe is going to cost 21 million to the.
Where's that figure from?
That's from Aberdeen City Council.
Where's the source for the named persons?
Aberdeen City. Named Persons Act. We know what the Named Persons Act is.
But
21 million is what they are quoting.
I'm asking you about primaries 1, 2 and 3.
Aberdeen City Council have said it's going to cost 21 million to implement it. Can you imagine what that's going to cost in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Dundee, all the main cities of Scotland? It's going to cost an absolute fortune. Now let's talk about general principles. We want to see taxes no higher in Scotland than the rest of the UK, because that's what's important. If we have taxes higher than the rest of the UK, the Scottish economy will simply collapse. No one's going to come here and have children and all the rest of it. We want to see people stay in Scotland, run their businesses, create businesses, and employ their fellow Scots.
Fair enough.
We want to see an end of these PFI contracts, which everybody agrees are vastly expensive.
Fair enough.
Now, I'd have to sit here with a bunch of ledgers to tell you every single detail on every PFI contract. Nobody's going to do that.
With respect, every political leader who stands for election costs pledges. If you don't cost a pledge, you don't know whether or not you can implement it. Primaries 1, 2 and 3. What I'm asking for, what is the costing which attaches to that pledge? It's a pretty straightforward question.
Well, I can give you a pretty straightforward answer. I don't know that figure right now. We're going to tell you it has been costed by our researchers, and I can assure you quite happily that we will have enough money to pay for it. We are not wasting money on the Named Persons Act.
How many more teachers will you need to implement this policy?
Well, we'll need as many teachers as we require for the number of students.
Just talk me through what research you did in this policy.
Well, Bernard, if we're going to go on like this, we're not actually going to go anything that's actually in the manifesto. What
Mr.
we're talking about
Coburn,
is tiny details.
No, they're not tiny details.
Well, I'd say they
they're
are.
absolutely fundamental, and
Right.
it is a reasonable
Well, I can
question
tell you
for
that
me
we
to
have-
ask,
well,
and
I
I'll be
can tell you-
asking every political leader
Right.
whether or not they can deliver what they promise.
tell
You're
you.
making a promise, and you can't explain to me how you can deliver it.
I can tell you how we can pay for it by not wasting money on the Named Person Act, by not spending huge amounts of money on all these other daft schemes that have been cooked up, not spending money on having too many. So for example, we've got the diplomatic corps for Scotland, which is costing a lot of money. We should
How
have
much?
the actual figure. I couldn't possibly tell you, but I can assure you, sir.
Can you tell me any figure?
Oh, I can tell you.
Do you have a figure in anything
I can tell
that you can
yes,
tell me?
but I can't tell you exactly what those things cost.
Tell me when you're going to introduce the 30p intermediate tax rate, which is the big idea of this manifesto.
Yes, well, what we want to do is, obviously, we are not going to be the government. This is what we want to do. This is an aspiration. This is not what's going to happen tomorrow.
So you don't know when it will happen?
We are not going to be the government tomorrow. That's a fact. The government tomorrow are going to be the Conservatives in Westminster. That's a fact. And we don't know what the Scottish government's like, but I do not think this time around it'll be UKIP. So that is what we advise all the other parties and what we want. That's our aspiration. And, of course, if the taxes change, then, of course, the bans will change in proportion.
You'd not unreasonably make the point that the reason why you can't say that it's going to be introduced is that you want to see how the new tax powers, which are coming to Holyrood, bed in.
We will always have to do that. And we will also have to see what is in Mr. Osborne's mind. Things change, Bernard, as you well know. And we will not be, I mean, with all the best respect in the world, we are not going to be the next government of Scotland, or indeed the next government, well, we may be the next government in Westminster, but that's 5 years, 4 years.
We know what the Scottish budget has been over the course of the last Parliament. If you had that budget to deal with, would the 30p intermediate rate have been introduced with the budget that you have now, rather than the tax powers that are coming?
We'd like to, that's our wish. But what will happen is what is going to be decided by the Westminster Parliament and also whoever's going to be in charge.
So the voter says, Mr. Coburn, I really like this idea.
I will say that we will implement it as soon as we're able, and that's what we are suggesting that should be done by the other parties. Now, if we're not going to form the government this time around, we're not, but we're going to be in there, we're going to be causing trouble, and we're going to be shaking up the Parliament in a way that nobody else does. All the other parties are much the same. You couldn't put a cigarette paper between any of them. And the Tories will have a half a pint of what the rest are having. None of them are going to do anything at all. We're going to go in there, we're going to shake it up. Now, that is an aspiration. We don't expect to be making those decisions straight away, but that's what we are suggesting. That's what we would like to see. How about that?